Welcome to Lyve Talks, a podcast by Lyve, a tech and logistics company headquartered in Abu Dhabi. On Lyve Talks, we tackle fintech, logistics, business, and best practices in the workplace. I'm Karim, the VP of Strategy at Lyve Global, and I will be your host.
Jeff Bezos says, brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. First, start with the mindset that brand is important. Brand is not the logo, it's that perception that you want to create, and it's your uniqueness. Branding
at the end is not something that you're going to see its benefits right away. It's not like you're generating, sales. It's something that you build and you will see the benefit in a very long term, especially when you start. You start a new name, you're all good, you've done it, but it takes time.
Once you decided to go on this journey and tell yourself, this is my customer, this is how I am unique, and this is my vision, be consistent and stay on that path.
Once you have a very strong branding, doesn't matter if you're B2B or B2C, but even for B2B, you then you're helping sales sell better, you're helping HR to hire better, more efficiently. In the marketing, they'll know what messaging they're going to be doing, and all the organizations is very clear on what are they doing there because they have a very well-established branding. Welcome to a new episode of Lyve Talks. Today, the topic is about branding. Today, I have a guest who is an expert in branding in Dubai, UAE. Her name is Nina Seredai. Nina, if you want to present yourself first.
Oh, thank you very much. So my name is Nina. I've been in Dubai for 26 years. And for the last 19 years, I've been doing business here. One of those crazy women who came here to Dubai to do business in the Middle East at that time. For the last 15 years, I'm really into developing brands, but not just here, across the GCC, in more than 10 countries we work. And I look at the brands as a company, as a business. So for us in the agents, the most important thing is the strategy. So that's really my main business. I also run my own podcast and I have a training company called Lyve.
Amazing.
But I wouldn't call myself brand expert. It's still a lot of ways to go.
I'll correct that next time. But you're a podcaster, so you should be at my place.
Beginner
podcaster. Okay. Just as a quick intro for the audience, today what we want to talk about is the importance of branding for new startups, but also growing companies. More often when you see a small company starting, including ours, the beginning is very, small, and you just do what we call any branding that you think, and then you forget about it. Mm-hmm. I call it like, let's do a logo and forget about it, find it somewhere online, it's okay, and then we'll think about branding later. But I just want to talk about with you today is about why is branding important, why we should invest in branding, and how does it evolve through the time between the beginning and then as you grow as an organization, how do you rebrand, when does it happen, how much should you spend on it, and any other interesting insight that you probably is going to come out from the discussion. Yeah. So maybe to start, let's just make it very simple. What is branding overall? Like, how would you define it? And maybe make a differentiation with marketing if there's any differentiation, of course.
Wow, that's a question I've been for so long doing this and still get this question, and still a lot of people get confused, and you probably won't believe me, but even marketing managers get confused about what brand is, what is branding, what is marketing. Let me ask you one thing. What is brand for you? What are you?
We were discussing this before starting. So I have a hint. So branding for me is when you relate somehow to an organization. So relating to it. So when you think about an organization, it could be anything that you have in front of you during the day. It could be, drinking Pepsi or having some food. You relate to the brand, emotional or transactional or something like that. That's how I see it.
I think that word emotional is the most important here. So brand is really, Jeff Bezos says, brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Okay. So it's that feeling that people have about your company, about your services or product, that just when they think about you. So it's that perception, association, or the emotional connection that they have. And that's what it is. And in order for me to make you feel that way about me, I have to do everything. I have to know what I stand for, where I'm going with this company. I have to hire certain type of people to work for me. I have to know you very well to impress you and to make you love me, right? So it's that connection that your company creates with your customers. And customers are external and internal also.
Okay, so you mean employees also within an organization needs to have that connection with their brand.
Exactly. We always forget about that.
How do you build, coming from my own background, I'm very, very new to this. So how do you build this? Like, how do you go from a simple logo, let's put it this way, like when you start as a startup, you're thinking, I will name my company this. This is the first very critical decision that you make as a startup is how will I name my company? And that has a tremendous implication to the rest. Is there where it starts, or does it start after I do the name and then it's the logo, or where does it actually start? Yeah.
We all somehow jump to logo, name, logo, website. That's usually the process of startups, the way they think. Where we start, or we tell our clients to start, is you start with a vision. So that's why the name of my company is Ninth Space. So if you look at the compass, there are 8 directions, and you can go anywhere you want. But in the sense, it's the ninth space. You start with a vision. Where do you really want to go?
Okay.
And believe me or not, there are people that have amazing products, startups, amazing solutions, but they don't know where they want to go. And when you ask them, what do you want to achieve? What do they say? We want to be unicorns. We want to be rich. Imagine if your vision is just want to be rich, how many people will go with you on that vision, on that journey? Who want to make somebody else rich? So but if you start deeper, go inside, and really ask them questions, but why? Why did you create that solution? Then the real why comes out, and that's your purpose. So the vision, you start with a vision, with purpose and mission of how you're going to achieve it. What happens for a lot of people, they go into the naming because it's easier to sit and argue about the names or colors. That's the best. The minute we get to color,
sounds familiar.
The worst. And I don't want to be judgmental but it's so not important. I mean, it's important, but it's not the most important. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't have a strong purpose now, because people do not want to connect with people who just want to be rich. They want to connect with people who have a positive impact on this planet.
Can you give me maybe while you're talking?
I talk to
some examples. Like, give me some examples of where, like, these vision, like, just to make it more, understandable for the audience. Like, give us an example of what you think is a good. Something the good that you've maybe worked on, or something you see in the market. You can take any of the brands. I just want to relate to it also.
So Google vision is so sometimes people have vision and mission together, vision and purpose together. It doesn't matter. What's important is you need to know where you're going. That's your vision. That's something that you really not going to achieve 100%, but that's your direction. You have to have a purpose. Why do you want to go there? Above commercial gains. And the third thing is mission, how you're going to get to, right? And then you can mix it up, depends on how you want it. So Google vision is to organize world's information and make it usable for everyone. Yeah, I don't remember it verbatim, but something like that. It's so much bigger, right? They're there to collect information, make it easy and make your life easier. And therefore you have all their apps. One of the greatest, I won't know by heart their vision, but their purpose is Body Shop. Do you know Body Shop?
Yeah, I've seen it's a cosmetic brand.
One of the first one, I would say, that really cared about purpose. So they don't do animal testing and so on. And purpose is not just environment, just in general. There's purpose, planets and people and so on. So their purpose is enrich, not exploit. Yeah?
Okay.
See, I have goosebumps. Enrich, not exploit. And this goes through everything they do. So if they go with the partners, suppliers of ingredients for their cosmetics, they make sure that they stay better after their partnership is finished with them. It's all about enriching people's life, their own life, their customer life, and not exploiting each other.
Okay.
So it's that, or Tesla. Tesla is so much big. You don't buy a car, you buy into the idea of, green energy.
Correct.
So this sort of thing. And it applies in the smaller businesses, also in startups.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to maybe ask you as the next question. It's like, what's the difference between branding or rebranding at that stage of large organizations and branding of smaller, medium enterprises that obviously there's the money, but we'll talk about it. But what is the difference? What do you see? Is there any differences, or is it the same thing, but it just applies to a smaller concept?
So I'll try to be politically correct. Okay. We work mainly with medium and large corporations. I wish, as a mentor, I work with startups, but as an agency, it's a different size. First of all, the difference is in client's relationship and client's attitude to the project. Startups are passionate, they're agile, they're flexible. A lot of them are visionaries, truly visionaries. Yes, they all want to be rich these days, but they're visionaries. Large corporations, they're all politicians. It's like you work in politics. You really, and unfortunately, in most of the cases, is you do it, you find a great idea together, because we don't build brands for companies, we work with them. And then that all they're going to do is put it in the drawer because some political, decisions inside. So, but it's not always, of course, the case. We know amazing, even here, brands in the Middle East are absolutely incredible. Emirates, incredible. So that's really the difference. Startup, you work with passion, and you work with flexibility and enthusiasm and a little bit of money, because there's always a little bit. And then with corporates, you have a lot of budgets, and then you sweat for it, and at the end, sometimes because of politics, they just put it in the drawer.
Right. Okay.
But the process is really similar. It's just what depth you go into and how much engagement you have with the client and decision-making process.
Yeah, I'm imagining for large organizations, you're going to have to go through multiple discussions. A lot of stakeholders are involved, a lot of people, a lot of meetings, a lot of, back and forth, and then maybe nothing happens, which is an unfortunate outcome. While in startups, it's more agile, and they work with you much faster, and then there is an outcome because they need it at the end. They also have very, 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 very hard need. Okay, I mean, now I understand. Like at the beginning, it seems to be that the process is the same, but you just need to go through. It could be a painful process to think about your mission, your vision. It's not as easy as discussing a logo and a color. I agree, but once you go through this and you're set, does it mean you stop as a branding? Is that it? You just do this at the beginning and you just sit back and watch, or?
So when you think about it, this the terminology everyone uses, customer experience.
Yes.
Customer experience is, we all want a CX, but really, if you look at it, customer experience is branding. It's brand. If I want to connect with you as a customer and make you love me, right, and buy me and recommend everyone, then I need to do everything for you to do that, right? To provide you with the best product, service, after purchasing, give you the content, engage with you, support you in difficult times, everything. So that's really customer experience. So you do it through the life of your business, because brand is your business.
Right. And
sometimes I give this example, in the orchestra. Yeah. So you have a conductor. If you think that conductor is your brand, so what brand is? Brand also is your uniqueness. Is why you and no one else. Why I choose this company, and I always prefer them, and I buy from them, and so on. That uniqueness, that unique positioning.
Correct.
So if you think about the orchestra, and conductor is your brand, and all these musicians are your departments: finance, marketing, everyone, product development, customer service, everyone. Conductor has to align everyone to one thing, a beautiful melody that audience would love.
Okay, so then in what you're saying is that the whole organization, startup or anything, has to completely align with the brand and what you're offering to make sure that, it sounds like beautiful melody to the audience.
Yes, and once you produce this beautiful melody, next time they come back, it has to be beautiful also. It has to be consistent. Correct. It has to be minimum that or even better. Because we need, even if you promise them, come, please listen to me next time, it's going to be beautiful. Then it will have to be beautiful. You will need to, again, do what you promised, deliver what you promised, and make it even more beautiful.
So then if I'm linking everything together, you start with the brand, with the mission and vision. You're setting up the expectation of what the customers are expecting from you now, because they did this emotional connection or whatever. Then throughout the first phase of your life, you're making sure that you are not addressing, but satisfying whatever you have said as a brand you are. Yeah. Right? Because if you have trusted this brand and you don't do what you said you're going to do, you lose trust. You lose trust, and then they will not trust your brand
and
anymore.
Connection.
And connections.
Yeah. And just to make it so, sometimes I get, so is it, what do I start first? Your question, name, logo, or the brand? First, start with the mindset that brand is important. Brand is not the logo, it's that perception that you want to create, and it's your uniqueness. Vision is in your heart. All the entrepreneurs, really, I haven't seen many that just want to be rich. They say they want to be rich, but somewhere deep in their hearts, they truly do something good, or they're inspired by something. Vision, mission, at least have a direction where you want to take it. And then think about who's going to be your customer. We forget about the customer sometimes. We want to sell everything to everyone. But in branding, the trick is you have to be very focused. You really need to know who your customer is. IKEA spends a lot of money on researching their customer, how they live, what they have for breakfast, how they cook their breakfast, to that extent. And that's why when we go to IKEA, we see these weird little things that are super helpful, right? Mm-hmm. And all of us, those who have money, those who don't have money, have something from IKEA.
Correct.
So first vision, think where you're going. Number two is who your customer is. Truly who your customer is. Not, Nina, she's 2 kids and, this age and this amount of money.
So not demographics.
Not demographics, not this. No, exactly. Think about mindset. Especially in this part of the world, there's so many nationalities. What is that mindset we want to attract? And then the next thing, you need to know who you are, right? You need to know what you stand for, what you believe in, what your personality is like, right? So if I'm serious, I'm not very, but therefore I dress like that, I talk like that, and so on. The same thing with the company. If you're fun, creative, innovative, you use bright colors, your logo is the tone of voice. You talk about it, you show your personality consistently. Because if one day you're serious, the next day you're fun, then you're schizophrenic, right? So consistent. And the third thing, if you break it, the third thing is positioning. Who your competitors are, who your customer is, what's happening in the world, market dynamics, and then what makes you, and why, it's only you who can answer needs and problems of the customer better than anyone else.
Okay.
Easier.
Very easy. Very understandable. I'm just now trying to think, okay, if everything looks rosy and nice and you have a nice brand and everybody's aligned, why do you rebrand then? Where do you get to a position that's saying, okay, now is the time to rebrand? Is it consequentially because of something, maybe, or is it something else that triggers? I just want to understand a bit what's the dynamic. I know from my experience that rebranding usually happens when you acquire, when you're changing your direction in the market, you're offering new products. That seems to be the obvious reasons where you say, okay, now I am not anymore selling juice, I'm selling juice and water and other things, so I need to rebrand. Or not. Maybe you need to keep the same name. So what is usually the trigger and how do you go through it? Because you already are happy usually, and now suddenly you're not.
Wow. Very difficult. Definitely when you merge, definitely when you go to the new market, but maybe you don't need then full rebrand. You need to really look at the positioning, what you mean in that new market, when you acquire new companies, when but one of the triggers is also when you start losing connection with your customer, then it means something wrong. right? And you can do that. You can now there's so many tools that allow you to see what customer is saying. All kinds of, the softwares, and the customers communicate directly today, especially the angry ones, right? So once you see you started losing the touch, it's the time to stop and think and see where you are. During COVID, maybe it's not so much you need to rebrand straight away, but you need to really think, reevaluate where you are today. If there is a big crisis happening, now one wrong word and you're in crisis, right?
Correct.
So once you're in crisis to that extent, what do? I mean, be authentic, get a great crisis management team on board, amazing PR, be authentic, don't hide anything. And then usually remove all the people who were responsible for this crisis and then rebrand in that case.
Can it be positive on the other way around? Positive news leads you to rebrand? Something positive happens in your brand?
Yeah, you acquire some new company that takes you to a different planet, or just you look a little bit dated and the world moved and you still have that crazy, complicated logos.
On that point, I always get a lot of times people sharing the history of some of the brands through years, through like the century, and you can see how things have evolved. But I'm always interested to know, like, when did they decide to move from this to this? Like, was it linked to certain events? And that's why I was asking, what is the trigger usually?
But I'll tell you here, I don't want to say here, just in general. Usually when marketing director comes on board.
Okay. usually the first thing they do.
The first thing to do to leave their mark is to rebrand.
But so this is an interesting point. And maybe I'm wrong, but there's a lot of subjectivity in it sometimes, the branding, right? Because if I'm sitting in a meeting room, and we do this often, and we're discussing anything related to branding or anything related to website, you can see that it's completely different. Like how I view things might be completely different from how you see it and someone else on the table. How do you kind of like merge everybody together or align them? Because everyone is triggered differently at the end. Like I am triggered differently from you, from another person. How do you make sure that everybody is like, wow, this is it. We're going to be all triggered the same way, maybe.
First thing I tell them, guys, we are not the customer.
Okay.
So really we have to remove all our subjectivity, which is very difficult, and really focus on what our customer would think, number one, because that doesn't matter. I want to say pink, I don't like pink. Why did they even come this color into my head? But I don't know, I might like red. Yeah, but my customer could completely not be connected. Red is passionate, but at the same time, certain, energy and aggressiveness could be. And then I could be in the spa business, so it's nothing to do with that. So number one is, we need to think as a customer. No matter, that's why I said brand is about mindset. It's not so much how much money you put into it. It's more about mindset, customer, what they like, how you can be different for them. So think about it as a customer, but of course there are methodologies how you do it. And the most difficult, so it's always easier to go through the strategy part. I don't know from your experience being a consultant and strategy, it's easier because somehow if you use the methodology, everyone is excited, they just can't wait. The worst for me is the naming. It's even more difficult than color. And especially when the client wants Arabic name. All the words are taken. All the good Arabic words are taken by someone.
Right.
So I always try to stay away from naming as much as possible. And then we go into another thing. It's color. Our logos, the shapes. Everyone can see something there that you've never even thought about. So what you do, you go through the process slowly. Always redirect. It's the customer. It's not us. It's the customer, guys. Look at this mood board, look at that mood board. It's the process then of working more with egos and trying to motivate the decision makers to go for it and decide.
Okay, maybe if we take it back again to the startups, the new companies. How do you make sure that they understand the long-term value of branding? Because branding at the end is not something that you're going to see its benefits right away. It's not like you're generating, sales. It's something that you build and you will see the benefit in a very long term, especially when you start. I mean, you start a new name, you're all good, you've done it, but it takes time.
Yeah.
How do you convince startups to invest in such a thing?
Branding usually comes from the top, from it's not so much marketing people, because marketing people, they have responsibility of taking everything to market. Whereas the owners, which is in startups, play an important role. They can see straight away that it's about vision and taking it there, right? And be different from competitors. The problem with startups, they don't know that it exists. That doing branding is looking at yourself and everything that we spoke about. Most of them, if they knew that it is like that, 100% they would have jumped on this journey with some consultant or just bought a book, go buy the book. There's so many courses now. Yeah, there's a lot of information that's available there. The problem really, and that's this trouble, pain of my life, they don't know that this is what it is. And then with all the technology and solutions, everyone offers now logos for $20 and call it branding.
Right.
So they will need it. And the minute you engage with them, they believe in it. They go for it. They read. They're motivated. It's the mindset.
Right.
And I say it's not expensive. It's the mindset. It's just that you should sit, think about it, think about your business strategy, right? You can't do work without business strategy.
Correct.
Now think about brand strategy. So, yeah.
You just opened the question that we all have to ask, but how much should we invest? Or I don't know, how would you look into it, especially for small companies? Large organization, they have big budgets. It's easy for them. But for small companies, what do you usually say? I
say, change your mindset. No, it's not the right thing. Change your mindset. I try and change their mindset. I work with them as a mentor, right? So I teach them how to do it. And then you change your mindset. And the most important thing that you need from startups, honestly, I swear, it's not about how much you invest at the beginning. It's how much time you invest in the beginning, that actually sit down and think about what we spoke about, customers, your uniqueness and so on. It's really time for startups. And then there is this thing that once you decided to go on this journey and tell yourself, this is my customer, this is how I am unique, and this is my vision, be consistent and stay on that path. I ran businesses also, right? And I'm still doing it. It's very hard to not to be afraid to be on that journey. It's so, you always have this feeling, maybe this customer, maybe this, maybe that. Let me try this. Let me try that. That's the thing.
You lose focus.
Focus. Yeah. And the secret there is really focus also.
Yeah, correct.
So it's the time. More money you can, invest, matter. Find the best agency, but the best agencies, they don't like to work with, not all of them like to work with startups, but find great consultants, work with them. You don't have money, it's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
So it's not, what we're saying here is not about money at the end. It's about time investment and taking the effort to go through this journey and making sure that you do this the correct way, because it will benefit you in the long run, both with your external customers, but also with your own company, if you have this brand and you can relate to it.
Yeah. Imagine if you know truly who you are, as a company, you know what makes you different, you know that you do something for much bigger purpose than just money, then people will believe in you, customers will believe, and of course you have to have good marketing campaigns, because if you're all great but no one knows about you, then you did everything for no
purpose.
Yeah, but then marketing team also, once they have the foundations, they know how to do it. They know how to create content, how to create, podcasts, what you stand for. It's completely different than dynamics. But if you don't know who you are and you change it and you great product, and then what's the difference between product and brand? Products go through their life cycle and they die, but brands stay.
Correct.
So it's never-ending work, and it's the mindset, number one.
So, as you know, like startup owners in the startups, especially when you're in the B2B business, right? Because you don't deal directly with consumers. These owners sometimes don't see the importance of branding. They will zip through it. They'll say, oh, branding, let's just skip this now. Sales acquisition. This is important. We need to do sales acquisition. We'll worry about the branding later on because now I need to get sales. Because they're not B2C. They're not thinking about consumers. They're not thinking that they need to relate to these consumers. They're thinking, no, it's okay. It's B2B. What's your answer to that?
Yeah, first of all, B2C, B2B, they all need branding. Even, we work with government authorities, they even need branding, right? Because again, it's a perception, it's the feeling, it's the association. B2B, B2C, they all need. I understand why they want to run into sales, because all this cash flow pressure, the minute you have license, everything green light, of course you want to sell. And do it. Don't stop. Don't wait. Go for it. But at the same time, then, still work on something called brand strategy that I've mentioned something on your brand. Brand, again, it clarifies to you or to the owner that what you stand for, what is your uniqueness, what value you bring, in order to grab the attention of your B2B customer, your businesses, the customers in the business sector, and choose you and no one else, not your competitors. It clarifies it, which means that when you go to social media, if you go to social media, you know what to say about you. Right. When you hire a marketing person, that marketing person has exactly messaging that explains your value and your uniqueness to all the potential customers. Your salespeople then know what to say, right? Your HR knows then whom to hire. So your sales, at the end, your company becomes stronger. Your salespeople know where their customers are because they know who their customers are and what to tell them so they can see value in you, which means that your sales become more effective.
Right. So what we're saying here is sales has to be linked to branding in a way, right? It's more efficient because once you have a very strong branding, doesn't matter if you're B2B or B2C, but even for B2B, you then you're helping sales sell better. You're helping HR to hire better, more efficiently. In the marketing, they'll know what messaging they're going to be doing. And all the organizations is very clear on what are they doing there because they have a very well-established branding.
Yes, absolutely. So the strong brand for startups or anyone, it's the brand connects to everything. And it actually, yes, it does feel like an investment from the beginning, but in the long term, it's going to save you money. In startups, what are we struggling with? First of all, cash flow. So sales becomes more effective if they know who the customer is, where to find them, what to tell them, right? Marketing knows what to say there, what message to push, and what partners to get on board, because they're very clear who their customer is, their value, and so on. So you save money there. Correct?
Correct.
HR, talent is always a problem in startups. We want the best talent, but we don't have money.
Correct.
So what can we do is our story. And yes, I forgot to mention the importance of brand storytelling. So you have an inspiring story that talents are ready to go with it, right. Go with it on the journey with you. And when people believe that they're doing something more important, B2C, B2B really doesn't matter in this case. They stay with you. So you do save on the talent. It becomes your differentiation, correct?
Correct.
Finance that knows how to plan budgets well, they will always try to cut from the branding because they don't understand. But when they see there is a long-term value, or when they see there is you have to do a good storytelling, selling to the finance. But then your product team, they know, they have in touch, they know what we stand for. They're in touch with your sales, your marketing. They get feedback from them in the brand meetings. And then they adjust their products. They make it better, and stay relevant. We know a lot of product failures. No, product failures, it's a big word. But, BlackBerry and Kodak and so on, where product was great, but then there was something happened on the way, completely. When you're aligned like that as a startup, you are much stronger. You're one unit that is aligned by your uniqueness, knowledge of your customers, your positioning, and, knowledge of yourself.
Okay, maybe just to, now that we're touching at the end, but to summarize all this, maybe in a very short summary, why is branding important for startup? I know we're maybe repeating a bit, but just to summarize it, to also tell the audience why they need to spend time as a startup or as a growing company to spend time into branding.
Sometimes I'm asked this question, can I do the business without brands? Yeah, of course you can. There's a lot of transactional companies, just commodity they do great. But going forward, it's more and more competition that comes into the market. Huge competition, very active. It will be more and more difficult to compete in the future if you don't know your uniqueness and who you are. So number one is to survive in the long term. Number two is, as I've mentioned, it saves you money. You can attract the talents, you can have a clear marketing strategy, clear content creation, clear sales strategy. You adjust your product, and the most important thing, you know who your customer is, and you can connect with them then. So I see it as a plus in all the aspects. Invest in this. You don't have money, invest your time at least in that. And then align your whole company on that thing, what you stand for and what makes you unique.
Great. That was a very interesting conversation. Thank you, Nina, for being our invitee on this podcast. I thank all the listeners and see you next time.